Hey Joy fam! Today we're going to be showing you how we transform our builder grade mirror, giving it a modern, neutral, aesthetic look, and just bringing the whole thing to life.
What's that even mean? Neutral osmotic?
Yeah, Joy fam just does absolute most. We brought too much life into this.
I think so, babe. Let's get into the video. Hey Joy fam, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome.
So for a minute now, Mary has been bringing her mirrors to my attention. She came to me and said, imagine a guest walking through a foyer, forgive my accent, and seeing all the decor, and then going into our bathroom and saying this.
Yeah, babe. Empty wall.
Okay. And
Horrible builder grade mirror.
she's like, babe, you're not getting it. I don't want to wake up from bed, open my bathroom door, go inside, and then come to
I
this.
can't see myself.
Okay, I get it. Our bathrooms need to match the aesthetics of the house. By the way, for those of you that don't know, this is like my 1 year DIY anniversary. It's been about a year that I actually embraced DIY in me and taking on a few projects with my wife. But that's a story for another day. Now, how do I update our builder grade mirrors and lack of mirrors?
So I did what any reasonable person would do. I went to the most powerful search engine and research tool I knew. Hey babe, the bathroom mirrors.
So, per our builder, mirrors were not actually a part of our project. He usually doesn't put mirrors in homes. So, we didn't expect that there would be mirrors in there. Apparently, the glass guys made a mistake, and we needed him to remove the mirrors that were in the master, and we allowed them to leave the ones that they had already put into the secondary bathrooms, and decided that we were just going to upgrade them ourselves by building frames for them. So for this project, the goal was to select the cleanest select pine boards that we could, 1x4s. And so, as you know, nominal, that's actually only about 3.5 inches wide. If you know anything about pine, you know they have a lot of knots in the wood. So those round, dark circles, when you go to stain it, those areas with the knots are even darker, and it gives more of a rustic look, which isn't what we were going for. We're going for a more modern and clean look. So we were looking to select wood pieces that were as clean and not free as possible.
I really should get a truck.
No truck. Pearl has been faithful to us. You don't need a truck, babe.
For now, sorry, your cassette needs to come down. So for this project, we're going to be using the miter saw to cut the angles for the frame. We'll be cutting it at a 45-degree angle, in which I'll show you later on in the video how we did the cutting. We would also need liquid nails and some more liquid nails and some more liquid nails and a whole lot of liquid nails. It's important to note whatever liquid nail you use to make sure it's rated for glass, that it's going to work on glass. So now we are back at the garage, and sorry for the mess in the background. We are in between moves at this point. Anyways, we decided to divide to conquer. I cut the select pine boards. Mary was sanding the cut pieces so the finished look could be as clean and as smooth as it could be. I had already taken measurements. We have different mirrors around the house, and I had taken measurements to find out the length. And so I was measuring the piece and cutting it at a 45-degree angle. One of the advantages of using the miter saw is because it's easier to get angles with that as opposed to a circular saw, which I had. And yeah.
So yeah, Daya was cutting the wood, and then he would hand it off to me, and I would sand it all down. And that's kind of how we knocked this process out, is to make sure we had all the pieces we need and that they were as smooth as possible. After that, we're going to go into applying pre-stain, and before we actually end up staining and eventually sealing the product. time for the next piece. Like the true perfectionist that he is just checking the angles again on that miter saw. And as you saw, you can preset the different angles and making sure it's perfect before he goes ahead to make that cut, because we really needed to make sure that all of the cuts are made precisely so that the angles fit together perfectly when we go to set the mirrors together. A tip when you're doing woodwork, be sure to take measurements and calculate just how much wood you need for your project, because then that'll help you to know whether you want to buy 8-foot length wood pieces, or if you want to buy 12-foot lengths instead, because depending on your measurements and just how many pieces you need, the size that you buy will determine how many pieces you can get out of it.
So for the framing, we decided to sand the corners of the select pine boards, so that it's not sharp and abrasive when touched. So that's Mary going over with her orbital sander and going over the edges. Guys, she's in love with that thing.
I actually really love the orbital sander just because of that additional oscillation that it does on its own. It makes me feel like I'm doing less work. I don't know. What do you guys think? I do use a regular sander sometimes, but this orbital one with the turning on its own, I really do feel like that does help make the job go by a little faster and make it a little bit easier. It may all just be in my mind. Now, to make our lives easier, we did try to make sure we were setting all of the different wood pieces in groupings together. So if I knew I needed 4 18-inch pieces for the half bathroom mirror, for example, we made sure we put those 4 pieces together when they were cut, just to make it easier when it was time to assemble. So just knocking down those final edges. Now after sanding, what we're going to do is apply pre-stain to this. What the pre-stain does is really sort of think of it as a conditioner. It conditions the wood. It helps the stain sit just really pretty in the wood. It helps it absorb really well so that it's not blotchy or streaky. And so I'm just going to apply pre-stain to all the wood pieces, and you can already see the detail in the wood coming out as that pre-stain is going on.
And here comes my dad trying to show us how it's done. I guess at this point it became a whole family project. Well, hey, I'll take every step and every help we need. Thank you, Daddy.
Just a tip on what makes my life easier doing this. I like to apply the pre-stain with a foam hand brush like you can see here, but then when I go to apply the actual stain, I like to apply that with a rag. For me, I just like the way my finished product looks when I apply it with a rag versus using a brush or a foam brush. So foam brush for my pre-stain, and then I dip my rag in and begin to actually rub it into the wood to apply my stain. When you're staining, you want to pay attention. Make sure you get your edges, get your corners, make sure your stain is as even as possible where you're applying it. Wipe off any excess if you don't want it to have a dark finish. If you let the stain sit and then go wipe it off later, the wood, of course, absorbs it more and you'll have a darker finish. I was going for a walnut type look, and so I simply applied my stain, wiped off any excesses, and then moved on to the next piece. So as you can see here, I do try to go with the wood grain. And then I just flip the wood to all the different corners, make sure it's applied in all the areas, and I find a safe place to keep it standing while it dries. So anywhere where you get drips and drops on there, be sure to work it out with your rag. Otherwise, it will dry with those drips on it. So it's me and my trusty rag, just dipping it in my stain and working it through my wood, following the wood grain. And depending on the wood pieces, sometimes the stain absorbed a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. So I just went back through with my rag and applied more stain if I felt like I needed another coat. So that's what I'm doing here, being sure to also work it throughout the entire surface, making sure it's even, and you're beginning to see just how pretty some of the pattern in the wood and some of the movement in that wood is. You can really begin to see it come out and stand out. So again, we wanted something with character, but we didn't want it to look super rustic. So really glad we were able to select some pieces that didn't have a ton of knots in them, because again, those knots just give you a more rustic look. So we let the stain dry for a day or two, and then we went ahead and applied a matte top coat. And the reason we did that is because this wood is going to be in the bathroom, so we wanted to make sure that we sealed it with a sealant. So I used a matte texture because I don't want the wood to be super shiny and glossy. And then now everything's ready to go, and I'm just pairing the wood pieces together before we get started. Here we go. Okay guys, so we're putting glue on the wood and we're gonna stick it onto the mirror. Well, a little blooper, we didn't put enough glue the first time and it kept sliding off. So that's why we told you need a lot of liquid nail. Literally just ooze it on there. Try to keep it to the middle so that it doesn't ooze out of the sides, and that'll help keep it adhered. Really, once we realized we actually needed a ton of liquid nail, we then realized we didn't even really need that blue tape that we're putting on there. It really didn't do much for the project. The trick is really just to put as much liquid nail, and it has to be a liquid nail that is rated for glass, as Daya mentioned earlier, to keep it on there. So you've done all of your hard work already. At this point, you're just putting pieces of a puzzle together. So take the piece that you need, put as much liquid nail as it can take without oozing out. Go ahead and stick it on your mirror, and you can use a couple of pieces of blue tape to essentially hold it in place while you add the other pieces. And that's all we're going to be working on here. And of course, you see our little helpers. This really was a fun process because we've done all the hard work essentially in the garage previously. So the cutting, the sanding, the staining, all of that. Now we're really just putting those pieces together. And so it was amazing how quickly it began to transform the look of the space once all of that started to go up. All right, next day, all the other bathroom mirrors are dried. We're ready for our master bathroom. The mirrors I chose were just to the scale of my bathroom wall. So be sure to measure how you like your mirrors to sit before you purchase a mirror. Now, for me personally, I do not like when the vanity lights go down below the mirror. I like them to sit above the mirror. So I took account into that whenever I was selecting a mirror to make sure the lights would just hit right above it. We're just adding the additional towel racks and hardware between those mirrors like I had envisioned. Already, that made such a huge difference. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
And I can see myself. All right, guys, are you ready for this? Look at that. That was just a really simple and easy, quick, and can I say even inexpensive DIY. Just a couple of wood pieces, a little bit of time, some stain, and look, it turned out so beautifully. And our master bathroom mirrors, I actually got those from Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if they carry them in store, but I ordered them online. Thank you for joining us as we transform our house to a home by completing the simple mirror DIY. If you have builder grade mirrors in your home or just mirror frames that you're unhappy with, this is a really simple way to transform your space. Please let us know if you have any additional questions in the comments. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Joy fam.